Hello and welcome to this Unreal Engine tutorial. I'm the Festmaster, and today we're going to be talking again about widgets, but this time getting blueprints and widgets to talk to each other, updating widget information, displaying it, whatnot. So to begin with, let's just open up the first person character, because in here we'll need to add some code to actually put the widget on the screen. So let's also open up our HUD widget and add something to it so we can see it. I'm going to add some text, set the anchor to the center, and now the text's size in X is let's set this to 150, position X to be minus 75, so it's snapped to the center, and then the position Y to be 100, and let's get this saying something like HUD widget, and also center the text. So now we have a widget that'll actually display something, and now in the first person character, if we disable this stuff here and get our event begin play, what we're going to want to do is get controller cast to player controller create widget. Owning player will go in there. The class will be our HUD, and then add to viewport. So what this is doing is we're getting the controller for the pawn, and the controller is basically what is collecting in the input from controls and whatnot from the actual player. Every pawn has one, so we're getting it, casting it as a player controller, which is one that actually accepts input rather than like an AI controller, and then using that to declare that, or to create this HUD widget saying this widget is owned by this player, and you'll see why we do that in a second. So now if we hit play, we'll notice that it says HUD widget at the top of the screen. Now we could make this also change in some way. So I'm going to grab a progress bar, I'm going to anchor it at the bottom, set the size to be about 500 in X, position X to be minus 250 to center it, and then minus 150. And so we can go again and play here, and now I've got a little empty progress bar. Doesn't really do much. However, we have this thing here called %, which we talked about last time, can change it. Now if we click bind, we can create a binding, which will bring us over into the graph tabs, and now we have a function that will run every frame and return the % and set the new % for the progress bar. So what we can do here is get owning player pawn cast to first person character, and then get some value from the first person character. So if we go over there, we can actually just create a value, call this health, make it a float, compile that, and let's set this to 0.5. Compile. And then we can get that health value and return that like so. Compile and play. And now we notice that the progress bar is half full. Now if we grab the tick event and get our health and add, just say the delta seconds to the tick event, and then set our health so that it goes up very slowly, and we'll set the default value of health back to 0. we can play and notice that the progress bar filled up. And let's just make it slower by dividing the delta seconds by like 6 or so. Play again. You can see that the progress bar is now slowly filling up. And that is basically how you would like in real time change something in a widget, whether it's a HUD or a menu or whatever. Now anywhere you see this bind button, you can bind that. So you can bind whether this is enabled, you can bind its visibility, the color. If we have text here, we can bind the text itself, the color of the text, the shadow of the text. Again, the enable, the visibility, whatnot. Let's say we have a border, just like a block. We can bind the brush itself. We can also just bind the brush color. We can bind the content color. Let's say we have an image. It's very much the same as a border. You can bind the brush or the color. So say we do have an image here, and say we want to set the image dynamically. Let's bind the brush itself, and let's see, is it under widget, brush, make brush from, let's say, texture. And let's go with our Alicon green guy. I'm pretty sure he is 16 by 16. And now we can compile that and play. And there he is, up in the corner. Even though we go to our designer, it's just a white square. So that's how you would do an image, and again, you can, under widget and brush, there's a number of different options. You can use any asset, you can use a material, you can use a sprite from Paper 2D, or you can just make a slate brush, which will give you all the same options as the editor. You can set the image size, the margin, the tint, the image, draw as, tiling, and mirroring. Just like in the editor, you can get all those same options. Alright, the next topic I briefly want to cover is an animation. So if we go down here with this animations tab, we can click on a new animation and call it whatever we want. I'll just call this move. Now, if you grab this guy, what we can do is say keyframe his Y position here at the beginning of the animation, and then scrub forward 1.5 seconds. Nope. Scrub forward 1.5 seconds. Let's change his Y to position minus 1000. Oh, that's too far. Minus 1000. 1000 to be at the top of the screen. Keyframe that. Now you notice it goes up and down. So now, if we go into the graph, let's just on event construct play animation, in animation, move, start time 0, number of loops to play 1, play forward, playback speed 1, compile. Then when we play, we'll notice that the HUD bar goes to the top of the screen. Now obviously you wouldn't want to play an animation at the beginning, well maybe you might, but not that one. So we can also pass in like a custom event from the character. So let's actually create a custom event here. We'll call this rise, and plug that into the play animation. Now if we can compile that, go over to our first person character, we'll need to make one change, And here we want to promote this to a variable and hook it up like so. And then we can call this like HUD. Then let's get key E, and then when pressed we can get the HUD and call that rise function when E is pressed. Now we play, and we'll notice that it's just sitting at the top of the screen, but when we press E, it'll teleport to the bottom and rise up. So if we go into our designer, deselect our animation, we can put this back to -150 to put it back at the bottom of the screen at the beginning. Then we press E, it rises up and stays up. So that's how you would implement animations, as well as bring in a custom event from your character. So thank you for watching. That is all for today.